So today we're going to do some more power rankings. This is going to be the late season power rankings. This will actually be the last one we do because in 2 weeks time, the playoffs, we will know the playoffs and who's going to play who. And so the next time we do this, we will be doing playoff predictions instead. But let's dive into it and we'll start with Pacific. So this is currently what the Pacific League standings look like. We have DRX who are 6-0, then a ton of 4-2 teams. Actually only one team that's 3-3, and then a couple 2-4 teams, a 1-5 Talon, and an 0-6 Detonation. And so let's get into it then, and we'll start again with just like the obvious ones to me, the ones that we don't need to talk about too much. That is DRX going in number 1, Detonation coming down in 10th, and I think also Talon coming down to 9th. That's pretty much the obvious ones to me, and now we'll get into the debate of where these teams should be. Let's start from the bottom and go up from there. In 8th place, I'm going to put RRQ. Despite some improvement and I think looking better in some weeks and, you know, even challenging DRX in one of their games, they still feel, you know, very much up and down. Their game against T1 was really disappointing. It felt like a game that RRQ could have won had they played at their peak, but it seems like they just aren't consistent enough to be able to do that. And then they did give DRX a real challenge, which was really great to see, but then again on Pearl it kind of all falls apart and they end up kind of getting destroyed there. So RRQ are going to go in 8th. In 7th place, I'm going to put Team Secret. Despite being a bit ahead of this in the overall standings, Team Secret seemed to be on a bit of a slide. They start off pretty strong, looking like, you know, a very good team, and they looked obviously pretty good at lock-in, considering who they had to play, and so I think the Team Secret, you know, hopes were rising, but it seems as time has gone on, maybe some of their, you know, strats have been kind of figured out and whatnot. It seems like, you know, they've been slipping and slipping and slipping until eventually we've got to this point where it does seem like they might not make it to playoffs, particularly with maybe some other teams, you know, starting to come into the ascendancy a bit. In 6th place, I'm going to put Global Esports. Now, obviously, Global had perhaps their best performance in their most recent game, their win over Gen G, a really good performance by Global overall. You know, they stuck with the same 5 players playing both maps, and I kind of hope going forward that kind of, you know, just stays the same so that they can get into more of a groove with these same players and just go from there. But, you know, this was a surprising performance from me, from Global. You know, I didn't think that they were like a terrible team necessarily, but, you know, it's good to see that they had the ability to upset a team, you know, who I would have ranked higher than them and still do have ranked higher than them. So Global, I think by the end of this, maybe could sneak into that, you know, final playoff spot. It does seem that that's, you know, kind of where things are heading. In 5th place here, I'm going to put T1. Which is a team that, I mean, I really don't know what to do with. T1 to me have been all over the map. They've played some absolute stinkers in games. They got rolled by Paper Rex. They got absolutely rolled by Gen G. Like, those games weren't close in any way whatsoever. They then went and, you know, just beat RRQ pretty convincingly. And then they win again this latest week against Detonation, but it's kind of close. And so it's a bit like, well, was that Detonation playing better? Was that T1 again maybe not playing as well? They seem a bit all over the map. It seemed like a bit of an inconsistent team. One week they'll be very good, and then the next week they'll be a complete disaster. Like, so I feel like 5th is probably a fair ranking. They are 4-2, and they have, you know, managed to win 4 games. They almost certainly will make playoffs. But they just seem like a bit of an inconsistent team where, you know, you flip a coin and it depends which T1 you're going to see. In 4th place, I'm going to put Zeta Division. Now, Zeta do still have 2 or 3 pretty tough games. They play T1, Paper X, and Gen G in their final 3 games here. So, you know, all teams in the top 5 of my ranking here. So, you know, it could all start falling apart, but I was very, very glad to see that they were able to beat Team Secret, who I would kind of put in some of a, you know, similar sort of range of team, but they were able to come out of that with a win, and I think, you know, now they probably only need to win 1 more game to guarantee playoffs, which I think that they're probably capable of. And yeah, we're all obviously kind of secretly hoping that Zeta make it to Masters Tokyo because it would just be fun and cool to see, you know, the home team go there. And I think that, you know, they are playing well enough to potentially get there. In 3rd place, though, between these two, and so who's going to be 2nd and 3rd, I'm going to put Paper Rex still in 3rd and Gen G still in 2nd. Now, I know some of you will be surprised by this because Gen G did lose to Global, and you might be like, well, Gen G lost to Global, what's going on? And yes, it's clear that Gen G's Pearl is not great. You know, they got rolled by DRX, they got beaten by Global pretty soundly on that map as well, so clearly they need to work on their Pearl. And then, yes, they also lost on Lotus as well. I'm willing to give Gen G, you know, one sort of let off, right? You have one bad week, I can let you off for that. For what I've seen of the rest of the time, I think they've been the second best team pretty clearly. And to me, Paper Rex here in third as well. I mean, yeah, they win these games. It kind of looks the same, though, right? Like, it's just every Paper X match is pretty much the exact same thing. Like, you know, they have better players than, you know, their opponents in most of these games, and so they win. But to me, the big disappointment for Paper X was we saw when they played DRX, there's a massive gap still, right? Like, Paper X, I wanted, and I'm sure many others wanted them to be a team that could, you know, challenge for Masters Tokyo potentially, right? If all things kind of went well and all things kind of came together. We've seen obviously at Masters Copenhagen, they can reach deep stages of these tournaments. But it seems like, yeah, we saw in their game against DRX how big the gulf is. And yes, whilst they are able to kind of beat down on these teams that, you know, maybe don't have the talent that they do, I'm still not super convinced that they are, you know, gonna be anything more than, you know, just maybe a Masters Tokyo appearance, but then, you know, quickly potentially go out and go home. And so then here are the overall standings across the different weeks. The first row being my predictions, the second being the early season, then mid-season, and then the one that we just did, obviously, as well. And you can see the change in Pacific. My early Pacific predictions actually were pretty good, I think. You know, we've got the top three kind of as it was. You know, Detonation down here, RRQ in here, Global have kind of done this 7-6 kind of movement overall, haven't moved too much. Secret have been on the way down a bit, and I have been a bit inconsistent with like T1 are a bit all over the place, RRQ are a bit all over the place, and whatnot. But yeah, for the most part, I'm pretty pleased with how this has turned out. And yeah, you can see that towards the top and the bottom, the movement is actually not so bad. In the middle, obviously, things have changed quite a bit. Now let's come to EMEA, and this is currently what the league looks like. Fnatic undefeated at the top, Navi 5-1. Team Liquid, the only 4-2 team. A glut of teams are 3-3. A couple 2-4 teams. And then Koi and Heretics with only one win down at the bottom. So again, let's just comment with the easy ones, right? Fnatic are obviously 1. Navi to me are obviously 2. And really, for third and fourth place, to me, there's only really two teams that can be in 3 and 4. And that is Giants and Team Liquid. And considering that Giants and Team Liquid just played and Team Liquid just won that game, I feel like, again, it kind of obviously has to be Team Liquid in 3 and Giants in 4, because I do really see those 4 as the top 4 teams right now. And I do think that there's kind of been a bit of a gap between those top 4 and everyone else. So let's talk about who's going to be in 5th and 6th. And to me, 5th and 6th, I'm kind of reluctant to do this, to be honest, but I am still going to stick with Foot and Vitality in these two positions, just because I think what we've seen as a whole, they have shown a little bit more than some of the other teams. So I am going to stick with it, but I do think it's getting very close between these two and some of the rest. And I think between these two, I think Vitality have maybe shown a little bit more. And so I am going to give them that slight edge over Foot, but I think it's very, very close from here on out. Coming in at 7th place, I'm going to put BBL. The reason I'm going to put BBL there is because it seems like, you know, they've had this steady upturn in form. You know, they were playing pretty close games even when they were losing, but now that, you know, they've kind of come about, it seems like they're starting to make a bit of a push and maybe even could make a run for the playoffs if things go right. In 8th place, I'm going to put Carmine, and I know that people will want me to put Carmine all the way up in 5th and whatnot, which is fair enough. You know, obviously things are going a lot better, and it's, you know, it was really kind of nice, honestly, to see, you know, the Carmine Core players winning a game, having fun, smiling. Their coach was smiling. Like, it was really, like, nice to see with all that they've been through and kind of the month prior, you know, to come out of it and, you know, be where they are was, I think, a really, like, good thing to watch. And honestly, again, the gap, I think, to Team Vitality between Carmine Core isn't that big, which, considering how that game between Vitality and Carmine Core played out just a couple weeks ago, you would have been mad for thinking that it could ever get to this point within just a couple weeks. And then we have the battle for 10th. And this one, again, I really had to think about what I was going to put and who I was going to put in 10th, because the Heretics Icebox game was so, I mean, it was just unbelievably bad sometimes. I mean, it was just like they couldn't do anything right. But then Koi, ever since Koi beat Navi, they've won one map in all of their other games. They've won one map since, and that was against Carmine Core in their most recent game. So I honestly don't know. They beat Navi and then haven't won a map until this most recent week. That is almost impressive in and of itself. And they've played some close maps, and I really don't know which one to put 10th. But you know what, Koi? For being such a disappointment, I'm going to put Koi in 10th. And so, overall, this is what it looks like here now in EMEA. And weirdly, things have kind of come back around to where a lot of my predictions now actually seem pretty good. You know, from the first week and the last week, a lot of teams are kind of in the same place. Some predictions, though, are terrible. Like, I had Koi in 3rd. Which does not look too good right now. I also did have Navi first, but, you know, whatever. But, you know, teams like, you know, Vitality are returning to 5th. Giants are back in 4th, where I initially had them. Karming Core are back in 8th, where I had Heretics in 9th, right? Like, there are some of these predictions going pretty well. But, yeah, you can see, obviously, a lot of change, again, in this kind of middle sector. The bottom teams kind of, you know, staying towards the bottom, but Koi entering that phase right now. And, obviously, Fnatic just staying steady at the top, with Navi steady in 2nd. And now let's finish with the Americas League, which currently looks like this, but it doesn't matter what it looks like, because in the Americas League, anyone can beat anyone. None of it makes any sense, and that just makes this task pretty much the hardest thing you could possibly ever do. And so, let's get into the easy ones, shall you? And hey, there's an 0-6 team, so surely that's an easy one. Crew have got to go at the bottom, right? No, wrong! Crew are going in 9th because MIBR are going at the bottom, because MIBR don't play anyone close. In their last 6 maps, they've played 1 close map. Not a map that they won. They haven't won any maps in their last 6. They get 2-0'd all the time. They've played 1 close map in their last 6, and that to me is just clearly a sign of a team that is not playing well, whereas Crew at least, you know, are taking a map off Loud, and then they're playing other close maps with Loud, right? Like, you know, they look like they can actually win these games, potentially. They're actually, you know, winning maps. You know, sometimes even winning maps convincingly. And so it's like, oh, okay. You know, Crew actually could win some of these games. And, you know, if Crew played MIBR right now, today, I think Crew would probably win that game, despite the fact that Crew haven't won a game yet. And now we come to the hard part of the ranking, which is EG, Sentinels, 100 Thieves, and Leviathan. Flip a coin. Or just pull a random number out of a hat for how these teams will play on any given week. Because it feels like some weeks they do good, some weeks they do bad, and then it doesn't have any correlation to what they'll do in the next week either. Again, it's just literally pick a number out of a hat. 1 out of 10. How did we play? Oh, this week we got an 8. Great. Oh, next week. Oh, 2 this week. Oh no, we lost. Like, I have no idea where to put these teams. I'm actually just going to leave these teams all 6 for now. That's where I feel like all of these teams deserve to be. They all deserve to be 6. None of them deserve to be, like, higher than that. You could argue that none of them deserve to be lower than that, although some of them I will say perhaps they do. And let's come to some of the easier parts. Some of the easier parts to me, Furia going in 4th, right? They just seem like maybe a bit more consistent than some of these teams here, right? That maybe they're just like a tiny hair above. You could put Furia in that pack with them towards 6, and I wouldn't disagree with you, to be honest. NRG, I'm going to come and put in 3rd. It feels like since the role swaps, you know, going back to their kind of initial roles and whatnot, it just looks a lot better. They look a lot better. I think most people would probably have NRG in 3rd, and yeah, they just look like a better team, to be honest, right now, and look to be, you know, I would say the solid 3rd best team. And obviously coming in 2nd, we have to put Cloud9. But wait, no we don't, because actually I'm going to put Loud in 2nd, because I'll tell you why. Because Cloud9 are playing better Valorant right now. Cloud9 are playing the best Valorant. I know it's Loud. I know they'll be fine. I know they'll make it to Tokyo. I know if they played Cloud9, Loud probably would be the favorites to win that game. But right now, the way that these teams are playing, Cloud9 are winning games convincingly. Loud are not winning games convincingly. Loud are kind of, you know, sleeping for the first map every game, and then kind of like going, fine, okay, I guess we'll actually try now and actually win. But that to me, like, those first maps still count. They still do happen. And, you know, if they were to play a better team like a Cloud9 or an NRG right now, and they just gave those teams the first map, you know, those teams might be able to punish that and be able to then, you know, go on to beat Loud. So I think that Cloud9, the way that they're playing right now, you know, everything just seems to work for Cloud9. Everything they do seems to be on point right now. And so I think it's fair that they are playing the best Valorant, therefore they are the #1 team. And now let's come to this annoying bunch in the middle that just refuse to play consistent Valorant on any sort of scale and just from one week to the other decide, well, this week let's turn up. again, I really don't know what to do with these teams. And I know I'm going to end up putting one team in 8th, and I'm going to end up putting one team in 5th, and you're all going to be like, that team shouldn't be in 5th, and that team shouldn't be in 8th. They should be swapped. I do want to make this clear that for these 4 teams, put them in whatever order you want, because it does not matter, right? It literally does not matter, because next week they'll turn up, and then the week after they won't, and you'll be like, wow, I really don't know where to put this team. Like, that's who these teams are. At this point, they've shown us who they are. They just don't, they're just inconsistent teams who, you know, have some good moments and have some very bad moments. I think what I'm going to do overall is I'm going to put Sentinels in 8th because I was just so disappointed with the way that they played. Yes, they beat MIBR 2-0, but as I said, MIBR aren't playing anyone close right now, so I'm not going to give them too many flowers for that. And yeah, okay, they got battered by the #1 team, which again, maybe you feel like is a bit harsh putting them in 8th, but I need to see more. Right, I need to see more. It feels like if, you know, anyone does pick Fracture against Sentinels, they just don't. It looks like they just haven't got the actual structure for that map to actually be competitive with a team that knows what they're doing. And yeah, that's a worrying sign this deep kind of into the league season, despite the fact that they've made changes. In 7th, again, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to put Leviathan in 7th just because they're annoying me. Leviathan, they don't change the way that they play, and guess what? When everyone's got a week to anti-strat what you're doing and you just refuse to change, yeah, guess what? You're going to lose those games. Yeah, I know it's a shocking fact, but when teams have a week to prepare for what you're doing and you don't change for 6 months, shocking, I know, but yeah, it turns out that might not be the best idea for this format. And then finally, in 5th, 6th, I'm very reluctantly going to put 100 Thieves in 5th. Just because I think they maybe have a bit more, but I really don't want to do this. A part of me wants to put 100 Thieves in 8th, to be honest. And a part of me wants to say, well, it's EG. Are they really the 6th best team? Are EG really going to make the first? Probably not. Don't care. I'm just going to put it like this. Honestly, flip a coin. I've lost my will to live. And so here are the final rankings here for Americas, and there's been a lot of chop and change, particularly in the middle, where these teams just refuse to kind of do what they want. I remember saying last time that Cloud9, oh, I went from 10th to 8th to 6th, and I thought, oh, maybe they'll be 4th next time. Well, no, they're 1 this time. This time they're 1. They've proven themselves to just be the best team, in my opinion, right now. And so, yeah, it's been a nice astronomical climb from 10th. I mean, to be fair, this was done when they only had 3 players, this first one. But, you know, from 10th all the way to 1. Look at that for a change. And, yeah, this is how it all shapes out. And some of this is just a mess. You know, you look at MIBR's fall here from 5th to 10th. Yeah, it's been a bit of a chaotic one for Americas. But, I mean, this is what happens when these teams reveal who they truly are.